He is Fresno State defensive line coach Jordan Gigli. I am John Brice of FootballScoop.com. You're back for another action-packed edition of the Our Coaching Network podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the last one. Thanks for tuning in to all of the excellent ones we've had this season. And Jordan, thank you for helping us continue to punch above our weight.
I'm excited to be here. As I said, watched these for a while. Always been a fan of the Scoop and the Coaching Network, and excited to be here today. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, and you're here. It's 21st, 22nd of July. I don't know. They all run together, but the days are really about to run together for you because Fresno State plays week 0, which is August 23rd, which means 1 month from tomorrow, you guys have a football game, which means tomorrow, even though this will come out after the fact, you guys report for camp. What's the energy like as you get ready for your first fall camp at Fresno State?
I think there's a lot of excitement. From a personal standpoint, you're just ready. At any coach about this point, you're just ready to go. So we start tomorrow. Practice we'll start the 24th, and we're ready to kind of get going from there. But I think there's a lot of excitement around Fresno State football right now. Obviously, we're a brand new staff, and this place has always supported football at one of the highest levels, and the attendance numbers reflect that. So I think the community, the state of California, the Central Valley is excited about what we're about to get started.
I covered a Fresno State game a little over 20 years ago. They played in Neyland Stadium down at University of Tennessee, my alma mater, and they traveled in. They support their team. They've supported their program. They're really one of the first kind of group of five darlings that's had staying power. What is it like for you to now get to be a part of that, coming from another program in Northern Illinois? And we'll dive more into that for sure. But coming from another program in Northern Illinois that's also turned its fair share of heads in college football in recent years.
I think any coach you wanna go somewhere that's supported at a high level, whether that be from an administration standpoint or a community support standpoint. And Fresno State certainly checked that box on both ends. From a support standpoint, when it was the opportunity to arose for the possibility coming out here. It's the highest group of five attendance, in the country. And I think we have a higher attendance. I think it's 15 power four programs. So like that's tough to turn down. I grew up, I remember the checkerboard stadium, the checkerboard end zones. I remember anyone, anytime, any place, like you grew up, you grew up even from Indiana. You grew up knowing who Fresno State was, and excited to be part of the tradition here and moving forward into the Pac-12 next year.
Yeah, those Bulldogs on the helmet and that V Victory Club or whatever it is, like those. You learn those from watching the game, from playing the original iterations of the college football video games, and then, like I said, getting to see some of their contests in person. Your journey has been fascinating. I want to spend plenty of time talking about that. We'll go a little bit in reverse. What was the process like? How did you get connected with Coach Ince to make the move from Northern Illinois into Fresno State, into a new era of Fresno State Bulldogs football?
Sure. You'll start at the top there with Coach Ince. Obviously, we were familiar with each other from our time when he was at North Dakota State and I was at North Dakota. I spent time in the Big Ten with Minnesota. He was at Winona State right there, working our camp. So there was some familiarity there from the beginning. But then obviously our defensive coordinator Nick Benedetto and our linebacker coach Adam Bresky and myself all came out here from NIU. We had the fourth ranked defense in the country last year at NIU. Obviously the Notre Dame. I know you're South Bend. I'm not trying to put salt in the
Oh, we're going to talk
like,
about that. We're going to talk about
put us on the map a little bit. And we were really good on defense. We had really good players. And I think Coach Ince wanted to bring out some guys to run that system and try to teach what we did at NIU out here at Fresno State. And obviously excited to be here about that.
He is Jordan Gigli here on the Our Coaching Network podcast. He's the defensive line coach at Fresno State. He's a Trine University alum. You just referenced it, so we'll dive right into it. You're a Midwest guy. You're a Fort Wayne native. We didn't know that until we were setting up the podcast, and
I know.
Realized I guess you've still got family 75 minutes away from me or whatever. I'm an East Tennessee native. It still sneaks out a little bit in my accent, or so I'm told.
Sure.
So I'm not all the way through and through Midwest. But as a Midwest guy, the chance to come and play and coach a game in Notre Dame Stadium last year, and then to secure one of the monumental wins of one of the most transcendent seasons in college football history with the new 12-team playoff and everything that went on. Just how do you encapsulate that? How do you describe what that day was like? And when a guy like me says, asks you these stupid questions, what's the first memory that pops into your head from that day?
You know, a lot of emotion, a lot of personal emotion from a background standpoint. Be obviously growing up 90 minutes away. Um, my dad had season tickets. I grew up with season tickets to Notre Dame.
Wow.
And my dad was in insurance, and he'd give them to clients, and he'd keep one game a year for us. So I'd go to one game a year. So I grew up, diehard Notre Dame fan. All Catholic school, grew up Catholic school, K through 12 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Bishop Luers.
Yeah.
And then so like coming, just that game had been on my calendar obviously for a couple of years. And then my father had passed away 2 months before the game.
Oh my gosh.
And that, it just took on a whole new person. You just from a personal standpoint, take out the whole football part. Just a lot of emotion that you literally have to kind of bury down, as you're game prepping for that game. But I pulled out like that whole week, and you can talk to any of the guys on the D line, like anything I had growing up from Notre Dame. I'm talking pictures, posters. It sat in our meeting room the whole meeting, so they
Really?
saw it. They saw it. They saw posters. They saw pictures. They saw a picture of me with Lou Holtz at the Notre Dame camp back in 1995. I'm just putting it all in their face, just talking about. I was like, and I brought it up. I said, guys, there's my own family. I'm not sure is rooting for me here today, guys. Just like literally, hey, man, this is a split deal. It's Notre Dame, as you know. This is Notre Dame football.
Yeah.
I was like, guys, I got family members that are probably okay going either way of how this game goes. I was like, that's what you're going to walk into, just to kind of prep them for that. We'd played Michigan a few years before, but I think the Notre Dame was, this was Michigan before they went on that run the last few years. This is the fifth ranked team in the country right here. And a lot of emotions going in, but, we had a very veteran group that obviously was not intimidated one bit. And we were good up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And I think that's what we were going to lean on. And obviously, if you watch the game, that's what I think the game kind of came down to was winning up front on the lines of scrimmage as a MAC team, which nobody gives you a shot, but we knew who we had. We had NFL players up front and on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I think that's what it came down to.
Yeah, you did. You really you messed them up in the lines of scrimmage and completely disrupted them. They were so disjointed the entire day on offense. Then you guys hit a pop play, maybe in the slot where the receiver cuts in front of a linebacker and the DB splits them and he's to the house. But it wasn't a fluke that you guys won. And I'm a statistical nerd as well as a football nerd. And so for a 13-month stretch, Northern Illinois was the only team in America that had a football win against Notre Dame. A lot of people don't realize that, but they won their bowl game to finish the 23 season in the Sun Bowl in late December, then lost to you guys and didn't lose again until Ohio State in late January. So for 13 months, nobody beat Notre Dame football except for Northern Illinois. I wonder what was your phone like after that day? And again, I don't want to dwell too much in the past, but a game like that is transcendent in the college football season. It can be transcendent in a coach's career. 30 texts, 50 texts,
Yeah.
200. What was it?
I want to say it took me probably a month to get back to everybody. And I'm talking, because you're talking text, you're talking phone, you're talking Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just to get back to everybody. And I wanted to, obviously, but fortunately enough, we had a bye after that week, so I was able to do a lot. But I think it was a bus trip to a game about 3 or 4 weeks later that finally is like, okay, this is my time to hit everybody back and apologize for taking so long to do so. But it was a great win, something I'll never ever forget, and a special day for all of us.
I have so many topics I want to hit with you, and so we'll move forward from this. But appreciate the insight, and really thanks for sharing the memory about your father there. I lost mine 3 years ago, and he took me to football games as long as I could remember. Had Tennessee season tickets, I want to say, for 41 years. So I can relate.
Yeah, crazy. No, I understand.
And
Understandable.
I appreciate you sharing again, Jordan Gigli, the defensive line coach at Fresno State. You said your dad was an insurance guy. You obviously played football. You're a Midwest guy. How did coaching enter the equation? When did you know? What are some of the moments in your journey that, as you sit there on the cusp of preseason camp at Fresno, that are going through your mind and probably go through your mind every year the night before the first day of preseason camp?
Yeah, I had to go back and do the old finger count on how long I've been doing this, and this is my 23rd season. Um, it's kind of a strange, no one in my family coaches, no one in my family play, um, I was going to insurance. My senior year of college, I got done playing. I was interviewing to be an underwriter, a few insurance companies. That's what I was going to do. I was a marketing business major. And I got done playing and I missed it. I wish I could have that better story. Like, oh, I knew all lie. This is what I want to do. I missed the game. I missed the camaraderie. I missed the competition. And I went and talked to my head coach at the time, Dale Carlson. Um, and he said, well, your D line coach is retiring. He's like, if you want to do this, I'll hire you right now. So, um, I went to the convention. I made little business, spent my own money, made little business cards, sent my application places. And he's like, hey, the job is yours. So my first job was actually coaching the guys that I shared a locker room with. So I'm
Okay.
1 year out of college, and I'm making my first contract. John was $8,000
I was getting ready to say.
to coach Division III football, and um, I've never ever looked back, and just had a blast doing it. And um, fortunate now to I do make more than $8,000 now, which is, I don't know how long I'll be able to hang on there doing that. But when I think when you come up the small college way, you do a lot of things. You're the assistant sports information director, you're
Yeah.
painting the fields, you're doing a lot of that stuff. And that's why I respect a lot of guys that kind of had to climb up, maybe the way I have as well.
Yeah, I'd like to think my version of that is covered some Little League baseball games for the local newspaper, walked a whole lot of Friday night sidelines covering high school football, which honestly I still enjoy to this day. And
Sure.
normally, when you're sitting there telling me your first job was 8K a year, normally we save this kind of to the end, but I feel like it's too good of an opening right now that there may be some good stories there. So you're making 8K at Trine, and I think you go to Western Illinois right after that as a GA. You couldn't have been making much there. And I don't know how long you and your wife Samantha have been married, but I know it's a little bit. And you got a couple of kids. What was that like? What were the jobs that you also had, or the things that you also did to make ends meet, so that you could keep chasing your coaching dream and also have a meal at night to put on the table?
Sure. Sure. I'm at Tri-State. It's Trine now, but it was Tri-State at the time. It's Trine now. And I had an interview at Wisconsin with when Brett Bielema was the DC and Barry Alvarez was the head coach.
Wow.
It was an interview to be like the next, not even the GA, but like, hey, we're going to hire you and you're the guy that'll take over for him. And so Thomas Hammock was there, obviously the current head coach at NIU, got me, helped me get in with the interview. And I tell this story, and Ham will laugh too when you talk to him. Um, he said, "Hey, it's going to be low key, whatever." Like, I show up in a suit, and I'm not expecting much. And Coach Bielema grilled me for over an hour. I'm
Wow.
23. I don't know anything yet. I've been played small college. I'm coaching. He grilled me. Um, didn't get the job. Got a call about 2 weeks later from Western Illinois, from a teammate of Coach Bielema's that he played with, who was the D line coach at Western Illinois. He said, "Hey, I talked to Brett. He's like, the job's yours." I was like, "Okay, when can I interview?" He's like, "No, I talked to Brett. He liked you. The job is yours." So I drove down to Western Illinois and GA down there for 2 years. Fun thing back then, contracts were only 10 months. So in the summer, this is back before, this is back when we spent all summer. So me and Andy Kolonicki, the offensive coordinator at Penn State, we GA'd together.
Absolute stud. Yeah.
He's fantastic. So we spent about 2.5 to 3 weeks just camp circuit, just driving around, working camp. You work at camp at Illinois, they pay $100. All right, let's go drive over to Wisconsin. They pay you $100. And that's how you survived. You got in a car and you worked camp. University of Wisconsin River Falls had like a 5-day camp, and it was a grind. There's no AC in the dorm, and you're doing
Right.
trips like that, and that's how you survived back then, because you're making GA money, and then obviously it's nowhere what it was now, but um, you're that's kind of how you stayed you stayed alive in those summer months when you weren't getting a paycheck.
And I bet there's not a preseason camp, probably not too many seasons in general that go by that you don't think about that, especially now as you continue to climb in your career. And I'm sure it's still a fond memory, but it's a long, arduous
Yeah.
climb.
Yeah, that's where you cut your teeth. You're just coaching. I tell guys, hey man, you got to go coach. And that's you run those camps. Back then they were get better camps. Now they're more evaluation recruiting camps. It's just that landscape has changed. But you used to go to camp, hey man, 3-4 days. Let's get this kid better.
Yeah, you're kind enough to join us again here on the Our Coaching Network podcast. Jordan Gigli, D-line coach at Fresno State. John Brice here of Football Scoop. Just really, I think, been a stellar start. And I say start, I can't say start anymore, 7 months deep, but been really the best year that I've been associated with the podcast, and you're a big part of that. So thanks for joining. I want to ask you, we had James Patton on a couple of weeks ago, and I try not to get too bogged down in the X's and O's, but Patton's been around a long time, coaches the O-line at Miami. He was fascinating. You're battling opposite him. You're creating those trench warriors. What do you look for when you are out evaluating, when you are out recruiting in your defensive linemen? And then what are some of your coaching techniques that or tenets that you try to really lean on, whether it's spring or opening fall camp right now?
First off, I've known Coach Patton a long time. Obviously, his son played for me at NIU. And what I did was a great interview. But I think when I'm out recruiting, I think what you're looking for is things you can't coach or things you struggle to coach. Maybe they take a little longer. And obviously, I think length is a big part of it. And I'm not talking as much, vertical height as I am arm length. To me, trumps height. I got no problem taking a 6'1" kid if he's got 33-inch arms. Um, those are things that obviously you can't coach. I think flexibility is an underrated part of recruiting. Everybody I'm going to assign is going to do a multiple flexibility test for me to see just where they're at. Um, I think the multi-sport athlete gets lost nowadays, so they're always going to look at multi-sport athletes. Their motor, which I think you can be, I think that can be coached, but it's nice when you see it on tape.
Right.
And then pass rush ability. Those are some things just take longer to coach, and it's nice to go find it. I think a lot of as I said, and you're looking for 2 or 3 of those traits. I'm not at Alabama. This ain't Georgia. This ain't, you're going to have to find, you like 4 traits. You're going to have to go find someone that's got 2 or 3 of them and develop the fourth. And I think that's I think that's what I've done a good job in my career, being at these types of programs. Like, okay, I'm not getting that. I'm not getting a 4-star kid. I'm not getting a 5-star kid. So how can I find that kid with that? I think it's got 2 or 3 traits that 2 years down the road, I think it's going to be what we want him to be.
I've got to ask, how rewarding is that component for you, especially as a guy who played D3 ball, started coaching D3 ball, then started coaching as a GA at the FCS level? I have to think that from seeing your own development and continuing to develop yourself today as a coach, that's got to be one of the more rewarding parts of the job for you.
Yeah, 100%. When you can take that guy that maybe was you know, slept on and developed him. But he's got to have the right mindset. That and there's been a couple guys in my career that got their degrees that I'm just as proud of as any football thing I've ever done, because they were kind of unsung as far as being able to accomplish something like that. But yeah, finding that guy and we were able to put out I think 3 or 4 professional, 3 or 4 NFL guys in my time at NIU, and that weren't highly recruited guys, and they had the right temperament, and there's 3 of them still playing in the NFL right now.
We don't want to take up too much more of your time here. Jordan Gigli, defensive line coach at Fresno State. We've gone over the fact you're a Midwest native, grew up in Fort Wayne, studying your bio before today's podcast. You've coached in a number of spots, a lot in the Midwest, and then you drifted to Minnesota. You had one other earlier stint in California at Sac State, and you lived in North Dakota. What are the challenges for Minnesota and North Dakota compared to we get some snow in the Midwest, not like that. And then now, what's it like in Fresno?
I told people when I got the job and left NIU in January to come out here, I said, hey, you don't have to shovel sunshine. I'll tell you that right now. And I'll never forget that there. No, my wife and kids, they're lovely. They eat breakfast. We open up the patio door and let them out in the backyard. And this is January, February, March. Which it's beautiful out here. Now it gets hot this time of year too. Don't get me wrong. But North Dakota, Minnesota, it's the same thing. You adapt. You adapt to what's going on. I mean, Minnesota's still one of my favorite places to live. Minneapolis is a great town. In Grand Forks, North Dakota, yeah, at UND, I was there for 5 years. I've only been three spots in the last 12 or 13 years. It's not. I think you find a place where you're developing and you're happy and you're winning. I think that's important.
You again, you're on the cusp of starting preseason camp. We're winding down here. You alluded to it at the end. I want to tie it back together. First year program headed by Matt Ince. Fresno's been good and competitive for a really long time. What do you like about this team and this program as you get ready to start fall camp and prepare for that season opener, August 23rd, week zero, one of the few FBS games, a big time FBS game on August 23rd when you go to Lawrence and take on the Jayhawks of Lance Leipold?
Uh, you know, I think I think we're excited to see, as all we're excited to see the 7, 8 months fruit of your labor come out and perform. I think we got here. This program had great kids. I think they wanted to get better. They wanted to improve. They're willing to work. That's half the battle nowadays, in my opinion, in this new era of college football, is that they want to be here. Um, Even after the spring, we didn't really lose anybody. I tell guys all the time, like, I didn't have one D lineman go in the portal. It's a new staff because you didn't recruit any of them. Because, hey, man, I didn't know. I walked in here not knowing any of these guys, and they didn't know me. And you develop a relationship, and I think players, they want to know two things from it. They want to know you care about them, and they want to know you're knowledgeable enough to help them. I think those are the two big things. If you can accomplish those two things as a young coach or as a teacher, I think you have a chance for success. If you know what you're doing and you can help them and get them better and help them achieve their goals, and then they know you care outside of football, I think you can get a lot out of a young man.
Well, last one and hopefully a fun one. And you cracked the door on it when you said you and Andy Koldenecki did a camp circuit basically and drove around everywhere. Anytime you ran out of gas, the car break down, what's your most amusing story from doing the camp circuit, or maybe the worst place you had to spend the night during those camp days?
Oh gosh, John, that's a great question. Nothing crazy, no gas stories. I think we were driving his car, which I won't tell you was not a good one back in that day. But no, we were at the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and we're sleeping on one of the other coaches' floors because he had air conditioning, and that was because the dorms you were staying in
Yeah.
did not have AC, and this is June, July in the Midwest, and it was hot. So just a couple nights on the floor, which things could be a lot worse, but no, I really enjoyed working those camps and cutting your teeth as a young coach. You don't know any better.
Jordan, you've been a great sport to visit with us, especially literally the last evening before preseason camp opens. Apologize and thank your wife and kids for me. Jordan Gigli, Fresno State defensive line coach. Thanks for joining us on the pod.
John, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Good luck this season to you at Fresno State. Again, Jordan Gigli, Fresno State defensive line coach, John Brice of FootballScoop.com. This has been the latest Our Coaching Network podcast. Enjoy this one until we bring you the next one.